John Rasmus here. The word of the day. It's kind of dark, I'm going to leave this on. The word of the day is spirituality. Spirituality, the word itself, has lost its meaning over the past few years. Whenever I see someone claim, oh, that person's really spiritual, in my opinion, I learn about that person and they don't believe in spirits. The word spirituality has the word spirit right in there. And this is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. This whole video is my opinion, but spirituality is free for everyone, most definitely. Different people have spirituality in different aspects of their life. I met this one guy who smoked a cigarette and prayed to God by looking up at the stars in his backyard. And he said he was praying. He wasn't on his knees with his eyes closed. He was smoking a cigarette with his eyes open. And he said, "You disturbed me, I was praying." And I really respected his form of prayer, and I saw him as a spiritual person. Prayer definitely is something spiritual people do, or meditation. But specifically spirits. If you believe in spirits, in my opinion, you are a spiritual person. If you do not believe in spirits, in my opinion, you're not so much classically, or at least the word spirit is right there in the word spirituality. I'm taking the word spirituality back. I'm taking it back. It's just this one guy claimed to be spiritual, or this one person claimed this guy was spiritual. And he was into psychedelic artwork, and that's cool. He was into this and that, that's cool. But did he believe in spirits? Most definitely not. Spirits, forget that. Spirits, not interested. In my opinion, he was not a spiritual person. He might have induced some type of synthetic spirituality, but with a clear mind, did he believe in spirits? Probably not. No offense to that guy. Maybe he's spiritual in different ways, and he probably meditates. So he's perhaps spiritual through meditation. But believing in spirits, in my opinion, having faith in something you cannot see is a spiritual aspect to your life. Do you believe in something you can't see? If you don't, you lack spirituality to a certain extent, in my opinion. People are going to say I'm way off, but I know for a fact spirits exist. I don't even have to believe anymore. But before I knew for a fact, I believed. I had faith in the invisible. I had faith that the invisible existed. I had a perfect faith that invisible spirits exist all around us. I didn't know. I couldn't see them. I couldn't hear them. I couldn't sense them. I couldn't see their actions. I couldn't see, taste, touch, any of the six senses, including... well, that goes into that realm. That's true. I do have a sixth sense where I can sense when spirits walk through me, but before I knew what it was, I didn't know it was spirits walking through me. But when I realized it was spirits walking through me, I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's what that is. This is not psychological. Ghosts exist, also known as spirits. They exist. They're all around us now. Where are they? Where are these spirits? They're in a dimension stacked above us. So even from a quantum physics standpoint, their existence is very likely, even if you have zero faith that they exist. Intelligent beings are above us, stacked in dimensions. There are many dimensions stacked on top of each other. It's how the universe works. I'm going to do another video on people. How the universe is full of people. That's a video in and of itself. This video is about spirituality. I'm taking the word back. If you don't believe in spirits, in my opinion, your spirituality is not as strong as someone that does believe in spirits. If you know for a fact spirits exist because this, that, and the other, there's a huge chance this is the case because you had faith before they revealed themselves to you. Spirits have been walking through me my whole life, but I didn't know they were spirits until, I don't know how many years ago. 20 years ago? 15 years ago? It wasn't that long ago that I would say half my life, I didn't know it was spirits. But when you have a poltergeist encounter where the entity moves objects and then walks through you before or after moving those objects, and there are so many false conceptions with poltergeists, that's another subject, that's another video in and of itself. I hear countless comments, oh, this is what a poltergeist is. This is what a poltergeist is. This is what it is. And they're quoting from something they read. They're quoting from something they heard about. They're quoting from a YouTube video or a TV show or a movie. But they've never experienced it firsthand. It's an extremely, 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 extremely rare phenomenon. So unless someone over the top has documented poltergeist activity happening to them, chances are they just read it and they're regurgitating it. But that's for another story. I've documented it to an extreme, extreme extent. The Pirate House video. The Pirate House documentary. I am working on it. I'm going to edit it. I want a nice intro. I'm editing it from scratch. I want nice segments. I want perhaps custom music. I'm doing this all myself. I'm a musician. I edit my own videos. I want some zoom in effects. I don't even know how to do that, but I'll try to figure it out. So by no means is it going to be a blockbuster. My goal is to make it somewhat interesting that keeps the attention of the viewer, but the information is fact. This is documentation of this actual house I went to. Last week is the last time I went there. And I did not experience poltergeist activity the last time I was there, except for some knocks, which I recorded, but there's no proof it was a poltergeist. Theoretically speaking, it could have been something else, but I think it potentially was the spirit. A spirit does inhabit this house, but you go back to, I think I was there in February, and I did get on my knees, not to pray, but just to try to fix my camera. And the spirit apparently was interested in what I was doing, to the point where it manifested itself, started stomping on the grass, which was very dry, so the sound was very loud, and it pretty much charged me. I have to piece it together after looking at the audio and video over and over and over, but I did record it, and I'm going to boost the audio so you can hear it how as I heard it. I recorded it with this very camera right here, but I didn't have a nice Rode external mic at the time. I just had the camera. So the standard camera microphone that comes with the camera is the only audio I had at the time, because I just side of the road thing, checked it out, 2-hour investigation. That's what happened after I was there, about 45 minutes, an hour. And then I stayed an extra hour because of that event. And then I drove all the way back there because it happened now. I would consider myself a spiritual person. I don't have psychedelic posters all over my walls. I don't do recreational drugs. No offense for those people that do, but I think that does induce a spiritual-like encounter. But without those things, you can still have spiritual encounters. Without any external drug, you can still have spiritual encounters. Joe Rogan, he talks about taking a particular substance and almost believing that these entities are real. Almost. Just dag-nabbit. That's because, in my opinion, he probably almost has faith that these spirits exist. If he did have faith, he would be a much more spiritual person. Maybe he's evolved, and maybe he knows they're real at this point. Maybe he knows the mainstream will make fun of him if he talks about it too much. So most definitely people will put on a front, pretend they're this when they're that. Concerning the word spirituality, I've seen very religious people to my face tell me, spirits, your spirit encounter probably never happened, dude. Probably never happened. And then I see atheists, obviously the diehard ones will say, spirits don't exist. And then I see some hippie who's into psychedelics, and they will say the same thing. Aliens, man, but spirits? Psh, nah, I don't believe in that. So we have an extremely religious person who has text upon text, codex upon codex, book upon book, talking about spirits, yet they don't believe in spirits. An extreme contradiction to everything they believe in, supposedly. We have an atheist who, in their text, if they had any, would say spirits aren't real. It's all in your mind. Then we have this hippie guy who would say similar things. It's all in your mind. You can induce hallucinations, but spirits don't exist. Aliens maybe, though. Sure, I think aliens do exist. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I believe aliens exist to an extreme extent, even though I've seen no evidence of them existing. But I think I've always had more belief in spirits existing. And then they manifested, and then they appeared to me, and they don't have that barrier of not showing themselves to me anymore. At least some of them. I would say most definitely most of them are still invisible to me. But they talk to each other. As crazy as that sounds, spirits are in their own dimension. So of course they talk to each other. They talk to each other behind our back. We don't know they're even there, but they're talking to each other in their dimension stacked upon our dimension. And I know of a surety familiar spirits exist. They follow us. It's their job. And they talk to the other spirits. And they're like, yeah, this guy, we've already revealed ourselves to him multiple times. Is what I would imagine their conversation might be like. I've never heard that conversation. I don't hear things other than physical objects moving. And other than perhaps something else, but I'll talk about that in the future. Now, I don't have hallucinations. I'm a drug-free human being. Stone cold sober. Will I go to occasional bar and have a snake bite shot with my girlfriend? Most definitely. If it's a social environment where it would be rude to say no. So socially speaking, that's the last thing I had was half of a snake bite shot, pineapple juice and whatever, and very watered down, very wimpy, the version I had. That was a couple weeks ago. But stone cold sober for the most part. I don't have any issues with any of that. But if you don't believe in spirits, you can cut spirit out of the word spirituality, and you believe in uality. Because in my opinion, if you don't believe in spirits, you don't believe in spirituality, or you don't have that in your life. I see tons of YouTube videos from the hippie variety. Yes. Eat this, don't eat that. I'm spiritual, be like me. If you don't eat this and don't eat that, you're not spiritual like me. That's not what spirituality is, in my opinion. I don't need to say my opinion over and over and over. But I did come across a guy that was like, that's your opinion, man. And I was like, every word out of my mouth is my opinion. Every word out of your mouth is your opinion. It need not even be said. It kind of goes without saying. But the word spirituality, it's been watered down. People that believe the moon landing isn't real, somehow they manipulate that into claiming they're spiritual. No, that doesn't make you spiritual. Believing in spirits makes you spiritual. Meditating or praying makes you spiritual. Having faith in something you can't see, that makes you spiritual. short of having faith in something you can't see, believing in spirits, meditating or praying, short of those, in my opinion, and I have to say this over and over, you're not spiritual. I don't own spirituality though, so you can claim you're more spiritual than me and just doobie it up and go to the moon in your mind and believe in aliens and not believe in spirits your whole life, A to Z, and most definitely eat this and don't eat that, and they're going to claim they're a billion times more spiritual than me. A monk that meditates for his whole life could be spiritual. There's a huge chance he is spiritual, but he could be thinking about non-spiritual things the entire time, in which case maybe he's just faking it, putting on a front. That religious person that basically point blank told me, and this is someone that goes to church every Sunday, they told me, your story's probably fake, you're lying. I'm dedicating my life to this belief, this story, which happens to be my history. So it's not just a story to me. To me, it's history. To me, it's a fact. Now, I think when we all ascend into the next dimension, we can see like a hall of records, like the old Atlantean Hall of Records. And we can see that happened factually, period. Case closed. So all the fraudsters and fakers out there, they're going to be busted, totally busted, because these Akashic records, this morphogenetic grid of information, of consciousness, it's all going to be stored, I believe, in a book, on a CD-ROM, in crystals. I think personally our spirits record everything we do, our very spirit. And I think there's a good side and a bad side that records everything we do. And I think these records go somewhere. And in the afterlife, when we ascend into higher, these records are going to be public domain, free for all. You want to know the history of Malcolm X? There it is. The history of Martin Luther King Jr.? There it is. All men are created equal. I totally believe that. I believe all men and women have the equal potential in them to be as great as anyone else. We all are born with equal, infinite potential. We're definitely born with different intellectual gifts, different spiritual gifts. And so someone born with a really good gift of speaking, eloquently speaking with perfect charisma. I don't have charisma. Meet me in person. You'll see virtually zero charisma. I don't have it. I don't have charisma. Like someone like Bill Clinton has charisma. Someone like Donald Trump has a little bit too much charisma. So if there was a scale like a video game, people are born with different attributes, different intelligence, stamina, hit points, whatever the case may be. Some people are amazing at a certain sport from birth. They're just naturally gifted at that. So, infinitely speaking, on an infinite scale, all of us can ascend great heights to an extreme degree, even after we ascend to the higher dimensions. Spirituality is having faith in stuff like that. But in my opinion, I don't have to say this over and over, in my personal knowledge, my personal belief, it's a personal fact to me that I can't transfer to someone else. I know for a fact spirits exist. I yelled at a spirit. I was like, hey. And you saw an example of kind of what it's like when I yell at a spirit during my book review with the smoke bomb. Check out that video. The Arthur Conan Doyle, The Edge of the Unknown book review. I yelled at the wind because this gust of wind with like 3 leaves was like whirlwinding and banging against this area right next to me in a strange particular fashion. Was it a spirit? I don't know. But it definitely triggered a moment of my past when more than just leaves moved around. In my room, things moved. Full-blown boxes stacked on top of each other knocked over after I said, get out of here. If you say, get out of here, and 2 seconds later, 2 boxes fall over in your closet, or it was in front of my closet. I said, get out of here. 2 boxes, bam, knocked over. We're talking like the thing like kicked him over. I'm going to tell every story of everything that ever happened to me. That's a factual story. In reality, it happened. I said, get out of here. 2 boxes of considerable size and weight looked like they were kicked over. And I was standing a good 5 feet away from the boxes, 5 feet. The room wasn't that big, but it wasn't that small. I was standing about 5 feet away. The boxes, bam, kicked over. Do I wish I filmed that? The entity's smarter than even allowing me to have filmed that. But as I have mentioned many, many times over and over again, Carl Jung has written down in his history of his life, he never took a single photograph because he lived before the time of high quality photographs. Like the infancy of the invention of the camera would have been in his lifetime, I suppose, but he never took a photograph of it, and even if he did, what would it be? One still? He wrote about having encountered poltergeist entities, and he was candid about it, wrote about it factually, tried to understand if it's part of the mind. It's not part of the mind. They're independent, external, intelligent spirits. And if you don't believe in that, your spirituality, in my opinion, maybe needs to come up a notch. Independent, external spirits exist. They're all around us. Why don't they showcase themselves? I think there's a rule in the universe concerning faith in them. Faith in other things that are unseen. If you don't have that faith, almost like a rule, they're not allowed to show themselves. So if you can muster up that faith, perhaps they will show themselves to you. Yikes. It's a scary thing until it becomes commonplace, and then it's no longer scary. Which is why I went to this pirate house, this 1820s house, by myself in the middle of the night on 2 separate occasions, in February and in this month of July. Spirituality is believing in spirits. Spirit-Uality. Spirits. That's my opinion. I'm taking the word back from people that claim they're doing this. They pretend they're all wise and they're like, you know what? I'm the most spiritual person on the planet because I saw the elves. I saw those. You know what I'm talking about. If they literally believe those entities are spirits, and I do believe if you do take enough substances, the barrier, they know they can reveal themselves. So most definitely you can induce an artificial version of spirituality and even alien abductions. Their show In Search Of, it's now hosted by Zachary Quinto, the new Spock, and he's not as good as Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of. That show is amazing. One of my favorite shows of all time, but he's doing his best. He's not doing a bad job. It's a pretty decent show, except for the spin on it. The spin is exactly the same as Ancient Aliens, from what I can see. The lady clearly says, I was lifted up through the ceiling somehow. I don't know how, but I went straight through the ceiling. And not for a second does Zachary Quinto not even consider, maybe you were having an out-of-body experience, because humans can't physically go through a ceiling, but your spirit can. But if he doesn't believe in spirits, and the lady doesn't believe in spirits, and the people writing the script for the show don't believe in spirits, of course they're going to spin it with an Ancient Aliens angle of physical, 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 physical. And through the whole show, he said, I'm curious about what physically is going on, physically. And he even reproduced it with these cords. They pulled him up through a swimming pool, whatever. It's not all physical, all right? Spiritual exists. Spirituality is about spirit. Everyone has a spirit. Spirit is intangible to us in this dimension, But it's a tangible thing in the dimension that it is home to. You see what I'm saying? Spirits, I used to think they were solid to each other and could really like punch each other in the spirit face, but that's not the case. Maybe to a certain extent, maybe in a certain dimension they are 100% solid to each other. But I know of a surety, spirits can stack on top of each other, which is very peculiar. They can stack on top of each other. Of course they can walk through us, but they can stack on top of each other. Corners of rooms, I'm still writing the book, stay tuned. Spirits manifest through portals, and portals can be seen from the perspective of spirits through many different things. Corners of rooms happens to be one of those things. Until next time, I thank you for watching. Spirits have to do with spirituality, concerning my personal belief. If you're spiritual, you believe in spirits. If you're not spiritual, you don't believe in spirits. That's the summary. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Most definitely meditation and faith is part of that as well. But generally speaking, people that mock me for having witnessed spiritual encounters of literal spirits, those are the same people that, in my opinion, I see them mocking it, and I would assume they're like a diehard this or that, and they go to church every Sunday. It's like, something doesn't add up. Your books constantly talk about spirits, yet you're mocking me. Spirits exist. My encounters are a history of my life. They're real. They actually happened. It's a true story. Some people actually claim I'm trolling and I'm making this up and it's a big fat game and it's a joke. Or some people obviously claim something about meds. I take 0 meds, but that's none of anyone's business. Never have taken meds, never will. Stone cold sober concerning meds, concerning drugs, concerning alcohol. Except socially. But I have to say I've never taken enough where it ever resulted in anything. The only time I've ever had spiritual encounters with spirits would have been when I was stone cold sober. Wide awake, or most definitely in a sleep paralysis type state. Feel free to dismiss those. But I do believe in a false sleep paralysis. These entities can mimic anything. They love to be compared to ailments. They're smart. Some of them are dumb, though. I hype them up a little bit too much. Some spirits are dumb. But they're still above us in higher dimensions, see us 24/7, whereas we can't see them. Spirits exist. Spirits are real. This has gone on way too long. Spirits are real. I know of a surety of a personal fact. I said to Penn Gillette of Penn and Teller, spirits are real. I know of a personal fact. He said, your definition of fact is different than my definition of fact. Just playing word games. Of course, it's not a historical fact from the history books of planet Earth. But the history books of planet Earth can look at my life's work and see that, wow, this guy talked about this a lot. It meant a lot to him. Did he provide any evidence? Did he provide any proof? Because that's all the worldly world cares about. I do have some evidence. I do have some proof. I recorded the footsteps in the grass. Take it or leave it. It happened. You will see in the pirate documentary, the 1820s house documentary, it's legitimately haunted. Stay tuned. That is coming soon, but I'm going to have a couple more rants coming soon. I'm going to do a food review where I investigate a haunted restaurant. And it's not Burger King this time. It's an old school restaurant that I think was built in the 20s. I don't know exactly. Maybe I'll do some research on the exact date it was built. But I talked to 2 employees that had ghostly encounters. After I ate the delicious cuisine, I'll do a food review. They allowed me to walk upstairs in the upstairs museum, which is public, but they allowed me to investigate it for ghosts. You will see that coming soon because it's going to take a while to really thoroughly finish this 1820s Pirate House documentary. Stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. I thank you for subscribing, liking. Patreon. Check out my Patreon. A bat just flew by me. This is bat country. The bats are just eating the bugs. I thank you for supporting me, pledging, donating. It helps me to a great extent. T-shirts on my Teespring. It's storming, it's going to rain, spirits exist. I know for sure. Do you have a personal fact? They do. Be seeing you.